Hello. Today, we will continue with Module 2, Foundations of American Governance. We will cover consent of the governed in this sixth section. You will learn how equality, the main idea in Section 2, and the social contract, which was covered in Section 5, lead to government that exists with the people's permission. Consent of the governed is derived from the principle that all people are created equal. No one among us can govern the rest unless we give that person permission to do so. Like the principle of equality, the notion of consent of the governed is essential to understanding the government of the United States. In this context, because humans are equal, governments are instituted among humans by receiving their legitimate power only from the consent of the governed. John Locke observed, men being, as has been said, by nature, all free, equal and independent, no one can be put out of this estate, and subjected to the political power of another, without his own consent. The only way whereby anyone divests himself of his natural liberty, and puts on the bonds of civil society is by agreeing with other men to join and unite into a community, for their comfortable, safe, and peaceable living one amongst another, in a secure enjoyment of their properties, and a greater security against any that are not of it. Locke's theory of natural rights and government accountability emphasized that legitimacy stems from citizens' approval and active participation, grounding representative democracy in social contract theory. We the people allow those in power to provide the necessary securities in order for the citizenry to pursue their happiness. Federalist No. 39 affirmed the Republican principle of government by consent. We may define a republic to be, or at least may bestow that name on, a government which derives all its powers directly or indirectly from the great body of the people. We have talked about how all humans everywhere share certain natural rights. As was said at the beginning of this module, the legitimate purpose of government is to secure and protect your rights, as well as those of your fellow citizens. However, there is sometimes conflict between the concept of consent and the preservation of natural rights. There may be times when governments ruling by the consent of the governed still infringe upon the natural rights of citizens through actions or legislation. Thus, a just government representing the will of the people must balance the common good and individual rights. Failure to do so brings about the problem of the tyranny of the majority. If a majority consents to a government action that restricts a minority's natural rights, is the government still fulfilling its purpose of protecting natural rights? The founders asserted that British leaders should rule based on the principle that governments depend on the consent of the governed. Influencing the argument, Jonathan Swift had noted in 1724, all government without the consent of the governed is the very definition of slavery. Returning to the earlier question, according to Locke, if rulers fail to uphold their portion of the social contract and protect natural rights, citizens have the right to withdraw their consent. Any government that ruled without consent could be justifiably overthrown and replaced with another. In a representative democratic republic such as the United States, citizens delegate authority to the government through their consent, both implicit and explicit. Implicit consent can be recognized by the fact you accept the laws and services of the government and voluntarily continue to live in your city, state, or country rather than moving to another, more personally agreeable location. Naturally, genuine consent cannot be given in an oppressive environment that restricts freedom of movement. The right to vote in regularly scheduled elections is a form of explicit consent. By a clearly expressed action of going to the polls and making a, hopefully, informed choice, you are agreeing to the social contract of society. Indeed, elections themselves are the renewal of consent. If a government fails to protect natural rights, citizens can withdraw consent in the next election by rejecting the incumbent and choosing the challenger. Next time. Now that you understand how the concepts of natural rights, equality, and consent of the governed tie together, we will talk in the next video about representation of the people. Representation is where these three concepts are put into practice. Until then, thank you for your time. If you want to learn more about the subjects we have discussed, here are the sources used for this section.